Hello Pisces, welcome back to my channel, The Vibes Inside. I am Mariana and I am ready, I think, to do your reading here. We'll see, Pisces, what's here for you. So, the overall energy for your reading, I get the Tower here. So this is the reading that I have here is not a day-to-day reading. It's not about your everyday life. So if you're looking for that, this is not the channel for you, right? What I'm reading, what comes through here today has to do with the fifth dimension. Something is breaking down here. And if you are a Pisces on a spiritual journey and you're tuning into the fifth dimensional energy, you can feel this breakdown here. You can feel that something is breaking down. Something is changing. To clarify this card here, I have the Healer of the Ages. So I don't know who we should describe this one as, but it could be something like Jesus energy, right? So a breakdown is happening due to clarified with this. And I want to have a closer look at this one because the thing is that he is balancing two things here. And at the same time, you have this giant light in the middle that kind of shines out, right? That this is the one he is. That he's trying to keep a balance or healing to both sides here. And how I see this card is that he's very aware of duality, but he's the Healer of Ages because he stands here in the middle, right? He has positioned himself as a non-judgmental party in between good and bad or different forces here, right? He's quite aware of them. But it's so interesting. I've had like the feeling of like Jesus energy come through in my readings, or at least high dimensional energy come through with this awareness. Like I've talked during the readings, or also this round of readings, I've talked about still the Virgo hit that was in like the last round of readings, where the Virgo took this massive hit. And somehow this comes across like Atlantis for me, right? That Atlantis fell and drowned in the sea and is there still at the bottom of the sea. Scorpio is hovering over it, still doing heart massage, that it's not supposed to die, right? That there's something here, something was once that took a hit. And can we somehow, after, there was a life before the hit came, and then after. I had the tune come in during the Scorpio reading, like, do you believe in love after love? Like, you've had this great amazing time of love frequency, and then it gets a hit, and we drop into third dimensional energy. That's what he's holding here, duality here. But there is an energy that is standing here and putting shining light on it, right? That there is a big awareness on this duality thing, and trying to and it has to do with this healing here. You know, like it's almost like this healer is at the bottom of the sea with the tower. And Scorpio is still keeping the heart massage going on this one, right? That, like, you know, this idea of the return of Jesus. Like that idea of, because what happened to him was a tragedy for humanity. The crucifixion even made that story even bigger. It made it even more unfair, even more of a tragedy. That a healer, like a God healer, a peacekeeper, an empath, a quiet, wandering man with a message and with enormous healer qualities, were judged, crucified, hanging on the cross, and taking with him the sins of humanity. The judgment he received, you could say, is maybe a sin, right? What had he done exactly that was so terrible? So the crucifixion, and he was a nice man. He was not a threat. At least to what then? To what was he a threat? He stood with God light, and that in itself can make any power-hungry person maybe feel challenged, which I think happened. So what God light does, and what Jesus did, is that it's challenging our ego, the ego existence, the narcissistic ego existence gets challenged by someone like Jesus, right? Because he in himself, he did nothing, like he was not a bad person. Losing Jesus in the world was a tragedy for humanity. You could say that the idea of Atlantis or Lemuria, these high-frequency environments, were like the fall of something. That's what the tower represents, that something is falling. An establishment no longer can exist, that it fell, and that fall in itself was a loss. And it's clarified with this one, right? The healer of the ages here. That the fall that humanity may be experiencing at this time, there is this idea in the spiritual community that the split has begun. The split between the third dimension and the fifth dimension has begun. You may feel this, right? You may feel this, Pisces, that something is breaking down. And the reason for that is because of something that is trying to return here. I'm not saying that Jesus is reborn. I'm saying that there's an energy that wants to come back in here. An energy of, like, I even want to say, Pisces, this can be an awareness you have in yourself here, that it's time to step out of the matrix. It's time to realize that the duality thinking is not what only is here. Like the establishment of duality, the hit we have lived in the aftermath of the Virgo hit for a long, long time. We can even say the Virgo hit was that the crucifixion of Christ, because that in itself is it's not just a tragedy for Jesus, it's for humanity, because the story reveals what the ego wants. The ego wants dominance and control. And even when he was judged, even when he was imprisoned before he was crucified, he was not, he was not protesting, he was not angry, he was not, he was just sitting there, meditating and, like, I believe, talking to his Father, right? He talked to God. about this situation. And we can ask ourselves, why didn't God intervene? That was not a good, but it was an example. It was the example of what ego duality is capable of. It's the example. That you stand in front of someone. If I were in my ego existence and I couldn't tolerate a person like this, because the God light is challenging my control, I would try to stop him. And that's what happened, right? It's like he couldn't grow. Like the awareness of Jesus could not become too big, right? Because if it did, he would have followers. And now the threat, the kingdom was, the mighty king was threatened. And his personal narcissistic belief about himself here on earth was challenged. It is the example that humanity needs. It's the example that highlights his light even more, right? Like that example, I've talked about that since the Sagittarius reading. That what kind of story dominates your existence? What kind of story is actually controlling you? Is it a story of, well, Jesus' story? Is it a story of Nostradamus? The doom is here, right? So I have to protect and save and shelter myself. What kind of story dominates here? Here it feels a little bit like Pisces, that there is a story of a fall here. This is in your this is overall energy, so it's like, whoom, this is in your awareness. That you may have this knowledge that something is breaking down the structures of society, the structures of the third dimension is deteriorating and it's falling down. And this could be the feeling, like I've talked a lot about that in all this round of readings, that we all carry some kind of inherited bloodline memory of a fall, particularly the second part of the zodiacs. Before the Virgo, everything was peachy, right? Then you had probably oneness or love frequencies. Then the Virgo hit, and now we dropped into duality here. And that's the fall, right? Atlantis. It's this idea of that something very prosperous and beautiful and high vibrational was destroyed. It sank down to the bottom of the sea. Scorpio is still trying to keep it alive because Scorpio has this non-radical acceptance of that such energy is lost. Like that is, it must not be, right? It's like a non-acceptance of, you could say, unconditional love. That unconditional love dies here on earth. That it's no longer present. That we can only have conditional love or conditional, relationships or connections. It's like Scorpio deep down doesn't really accept that. They don't accept that it's gone. They're still kind of trying to keep it alive, down at the bottom of the sea here. They're still doing that. And this place. Of course you do, Pisces, right? You know this place. It's still there. Deep down, hidden, right? Only the whales and it's at the bottom of the sea, so only you know that. And this is what it is, right? The balancer here, the healer of the ages, the balancer who can stand in the midst of this and be unaffected of these. Like these two to me represent duality, good and bad, right? Up and down, light and dark. All our judgments, prejudices, all our fears and joys, all our ways of always comparing something. The reason why we are constantly comparing is because the world affects us. I've talked about this before. Because we are in a human body, we have an amygdala, the inheritance of the reptile brain and amygdala, a fear center. So we will be affected when something feels like a threat to our comfort, to our life, to our sustainability somehow. Then we feel it like a threat. It becomes violent, or it becomes uncomfortable somehow, so we react to it. That's how we are constantly judging. We scan and we're judging the things. This is good, this feels good, so I'm comfortable here. And then there's all this stuff out there that makes me uncomfortable somehow. So there's good and there's bad, or there's up and there's down, and there's light and there's dark. There's good and there's evil, and so on. But he stands in the middle here. He's not judging either of them. This one has a clear understanding that in a dualistic world, which the third dimension is, there must be polarities. Otherwise, it's not a dualistic world. So if there's good, there must naturally also be bad. That's the judgment we make with our brain. That is the truth that can rule your mind. That there's good and bad. This is the one who is not judging. Like Jesus. He walks on earth. The reason why he's not judging is because he's not afraid. He's not afraid. Like he's not existing in a world where there is a word that talks about being afraid. It's like we have to totally shift our minds from the fact that you are either safe or unsafe. He's not living in that vibration. This guy. This guy lives in a love frequency. There is only love here. There's nothing else. That's why he's not afraid. That's why he's not doing it. He's not protesting. He's not fighting for his life. He's not doing anything. His presence is like a light body, or like soul existence. The soul part of us knows that we are infinite, that we are not, we don't have this linear kind of life where we are born and then we die. That's the human part of us. But the soul part knows that it's, just traveling through, it's on a journey here. Experiencing something. This guy, he lives in a different vibration where there is no duality. Now he's here on earth. He experiences how humans think that They think either something is good or bad. He doesn't really, this guy. Because he, again, it's like he comes from a different plane, right? He looks at Earth and he sees, oh, there's duality here. I go visit then. I go visit, and he says, humans live in this understanding, so of course that's how they think. That's how we think. That's how I have been thinking most of my life. I've been raised to think like that. Everyone around me was thinking like that. Now I don't think like that. I can't maybe exactly escape it, but at the same time, I'm aware of something else also. And this is what we all need to wake up to, right? Like, as long as we live in the human condition of third dimension energy here, there is no choice. We have no choice when we have not awakened to a different reality. When we live here, we live in suffering. We live in the aftermath of the Virgo hit, and everyone is trying to like keep ourselves together the best we can. The second half of the zodiacs, I believe, have a bigger awareness of the aftermath of something that potentially came in and was a massive hit. Something that destroyed like civilizations that were maybe like very high vibrational at some point. It's like, and the full moon in Pisces is here, right? In tomorrow, I think it comes in, where it actually affects or perfects as a full moon. And this is where I feel like it could be the feeling that you know that something is changing, because the full moon wants to like complete a cycle of something. It wants to complete a cycle of, you could say, like fulfill something, and something comes to fulfillment. Something is understood. Something is changing. Something comes in with a more massive force. Something is starting. And something is changing here. Something that has been going on in society, that has been maybe going on inside you, is falling, because there is an awareness that comes in here. Your inner, you could say, light is coming forward. Your inner, can I say Jesus, right? Your inner Jesus is awakening, or it could be the feeling that this is happening in the world. That's why I talk about the split between the third dimension and the fifth dimension, that some people are awakened to the fact that there is a choice. There is a choice here. I don't have necessarily to live in only duality. I can choose. I can choose to leave an establishment here of programming and understanding. I can leave that, and I can actually join another club. You would say I can choose to believe in something else. This is where I feel like we are starting to grow maybe our light bodies, right? We start to grow we let more light in. We let more God light in. Whereas at some point when we live in full duality, it's totally closed. We have no connection with this. When we accept this idea that I am soul, I am infinite. I'm not in danger. Like, and I still work on this, right? But the point is that if you can cognitively understand, again, what headline do you use? What headline dominates your thinking? The headline of fear, disaster, destruction, suffering, or a headline of I have a choice, I can do differently, I can think differently, I can reprogram myself, I can become someone else. Because this one is here, right? This one is actually, it's here in me, it's here on earth. I've actually literally had the feeling that that it has arrived, like it's back. It's back. This energy is back here. I'm not saying that Jesus is out there. I'm saying that potentially, maybe, because I have the page of Earth here, potentially there is a baby born with this, the page here. Because this is the driver, underlying energy for the entire reading. So the tower is falling, perhaps because of this one. Because this one could be reborn. Page here. And this one is clarified with the blueprint, the new blueprint. So this is a child or children, or an energy that is new here on earth. The page is usually like a young energy, like a novice. But it has a different imprint, like it has a different blueprint here. You know, like a higher vibrational energy. We see how the star is shining right above the head here, like very connected with the soul star chakra here, right? That that this is an energy of, you could say, the new children of earth. This is the rebirth, the coming, like earth in a new stage here, page of earth. That earth is in a new state of existence that has a different blueprint here. So you can, and because the children are here, you could say, or the child is born, the child with the star chakra open, who has this energy here, it can be the feeling that it is awakened in all of us. But the point is that it's breaking down something. Because of this, it's breaking down some old structures that need a new imprint here, a new blueprint. It needs a new way of being, thinking, and so on, where this duality thing is challenged, or it's because, again, he is, well, how can I explain this? Like, when I had this Virgo experience, like there came this massive hit in and it changed everything. So I feel like, and it came through, as for me, it came through that that massive hit on Earth, on us, you can maybe like relate to it, and you had a massive hit. If you have Virgo strong in your chart, maybe you had a hit that kind of shook you to the ground. You had to heal from it with yin energy, Libra. You had to maybe, like become aware of, to protect yourself, to keep a perimeter ready, but still trying to, like not forget it, like not forget what was before, right? So there is a love frequency here, like a dimension that has been here. Then there is this massive hit, and then there is an aftermath here. And in this aftermath, you can have suffering, pain, sadness, grief, loss, all this stuff. And we know that very well. Most of us have lived in that duality existence here, where we feel that much more is uncomfortable than it's comfortable. Or at least our awareness, again, the story here, our awareness on what's comfortable has much more of our focus. So when you actually are comfortable, you're not even recognizing it. Not really. It's just, it almost feels like, now, okay, it's better now, right? But I talk especially about the zodiacs after the Virgo. Like you have, that energy is very present in your brain, in your amygdala, inherited. That's what I feel. This is my theory, right? That we all carry this to a certain point. Those who have Virgo strong in their chart, they are very aware of the hit. Very aware of it. Those of you who do not have strong Virgo, but you may have Libra, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, or Pisces. Those of you who have that strongly, you may not remember the exact hit. You don't know what it's about. You just have this awareness. You have to kind of be careful that it's not necessarily that easy. It's like, and again, it has created duality, right? That the first half is more, yes, let's go, let's have fun, let's go and party. Carpe diem, here I come. Life is great. How amazing everything is. And then you get to the Virgo hit, and then after that it's this, yeah, life is fine, but let's just research a little bit, right? Let's take our precautions. That's not just run unprepared into the jungle, right? There's a stronger awareness, and it's like, I believe that this is actually one of the ultimate lessons of the hero's journey with the tarot cards, that you start out with the Fool card. The Fool card would represent Aries energy. So this is where you are just born, you just come from source. You just come from what I call oneness, or I also sometimes call it allness. The oneness is a perfect beingness. Everything is in perfect balance here. If we talk about good or bad, or yin and yang, there is no awareness of it because it's perfect. You can't feel the polarities in that beingness. Oneness is a beingness of absolute comfort. It's perfect balance of yin and yang, but you're not aware of it because you can feel a discomfort. There's no discomfort. Imagine that, no discomfort. So in a place of no discomfort, you have no understanding that there could be one. Then you get born here on earth. So you come in with the awareness of peachy, like, of the oneness. Everything is perfect. Then you start experiencing life here. I believe one of the reasons why we are here is actually to get to that understanding that outside of oneness, God's light, or Jesus here, outside of, or just replace Jesus with whoever you feel like embraces this energy, right? If you're not Christian, if this is Buddha for you, or Krishna, or Muhammad, any deity, right? I don't care about that. It's just human stories anyway. For me, but the point is that we are born in with the memory of oneness. We just left, right? So we come in with that awareness. We are born into Earth. We realize shortly after this that life is not always comfortable. A baby cries, so on. It's not always comfortable. So we start in our brain it's like a chaos in our brain, right? That we have to somehow, like, what happened? Like, I believed, my consciousness has been like this. Then we come here on Earth. Our consciousness is now expanding. We are learning about what it means to have discomfort, or even life-threatening discomfort. Near-death experience, like we learn about panic attacks. We learn about pain and suffering, waiting. We learn about not getting it our way. So our willpower is challenged. Others have willpower too. We learn this. Then you get to the Virgo, and the Virgo seems to be the one that kind of divides everything. With the Virgo energy, and Virgo is very, you could say, virtuous. Like it really wants, it has these like really virtuous energies. And that's why I talk about Jesus crucifixion also here, like the death of something, like the death of God. It's like you take a piece of God and you destroy it. That is a tragedy on earth for humanity. And it is the example of what ego can do, what ego is capable of. You can destroy your own Jesus in you with your ego. When the ego takes over, dominates the story, the light of God dims, because you now live in duality, good and bad, and judgment and prejudice and everything. So, what I feel like is here for you in this reading is a feeling, an intuition, a knowingness that something is falling here. Something is not the same. Something is being destroyed here. And a deeper knowing that the reason for that is because new earth is beginning. New earth is beginning. So this is like the split of the... This symbolizes the split, whether you can feel it in your heart or your intuition. You have had downloads about this. This is like the new earth is here. It is here. It doesn't mean that everything changes like that over time, just overnight. But the split has begun. Like the split of between the third dimension and the fifth dimension is here. This wants to come forward again in all of us. But it means that you have to like get very, very aware of the duality functions here and what the duality functions are actually controlling. In my opinion, I believe it controls the human body and the ego. The ego existence lives in duality, good or bad, life and death, up and down, life and death. So a linear understanding of life, and that I am finite. A human is finite. We have a birth and a death, and then we disappear. Soul understanding is not like that. But if you haven't had an awakening to that understanding, you have no choice. You can only live as a human. There is nothing else, no other story has presented in your mind. I want to say, if the story hasn't presented in your mind, you probably live in like third dimension. You live in duality. There is no other way. There is no other choice. But what I feel like here is the split has started, right? That something is falling here. And the reason why it's falling is because the structures of duality can no longer be upheld in you, in us, in the world, because something else wants to come back up to the surface again. So for Scorpio, those of you who have been doing the heart massage here, thank you for that. Thank you. It's just that when this comes to the forefront here, it's not the same as before. Like, it's a rebirth. You could say, as I said, do you believe in love after love? Like, the love that was here before the hit can love again, even though it has an awareness of the fall. That is a growth process. Do you see the point of when Aries comes in, just back from the light, it only has this understanding of comfort. It only has understanding of comfort. And therefore it's impulsive. It just goes out there. It has no, like, young Aries children, they have no idea of consequence. Well, no child perhaps has, but Aries especially, like, they really don't have any awareness of consequence. Then the consequence comes, and suddenly it's like it creates chaos in the brain. Because the story that has been, the storyline that has been embedded in their brain when they came here tells them that there's only comfort. So when that breaks down, it's like chaos. And they have to realize that there's something else beside them that can affect them. In that process, this is where something breaks down. There's a new imprint starts, right? But it's an imprint, and has been an imprint of fear, anxiety, anger, frustration. So now you feel the discomfort. The discomfort of the third dimension, it is soul growth. It has to do with soul growth. That the soul must learn what it means not to have oneness. As I said, the Virgo is positioned, you could say, in the middle of the zodiac. So Aries up to Virgo and Virgo to Pisces. But again, it depends on where your Virgo is in your chart, whether you have experienced it early on as a child, or you will only experience it when you're 70. What house is it in? Do you even have Virgo as a personal planet? Maybe it's an outer planet for you. I have a Virgo moon. The moon represents mother, it represents child. So I had my hit very early. So I have had like a little bit of feeling of oneness, you could say, a few years. Then I had a hit, and I'm now have lived most of my life with the aftermath. The point is to get back. The point is to, even after that hit, can you find your way back to comfort? Can you find your way back to balance now that you know this? Now that you know this, the duality, the good and bad. Can you find your way back to comfort? Even though you know that this may be around you, right? Can you still stand here and be all right, okay? Even be happy? This can talk about, the light here can talk about losing faith. Faith in yourself, faith in, because we talk about God is in you. God is not just perhaps up there, right? That God is in you, that Jesus light in you, but you lose your faith in it. And when you lose your faith in it, you have no choice. You must live in duality. When you, if you can after this hit, if you can get your faith back, you open the door to more. You open the door to religion. You open the door to remembering where you may come from. You open the door to maybe praying, meditating, thinking outside of the box, which I believe Aquarius does a lot. Or even you could say like escaping the world, right? Whether you do that in drugs or fantasy or whatever, it's this idea that the zodiacs that are after Virgo, they have a stronger understanding of like the duality hit and what it created. It's the darker period of time. It becomes the darker period of time. It relates more to the feminine. It relates to, at least in the upper hemisphere, it becomes cold, rainy, unwelcoming. Like it's a suffering, or we say bad for humans, bad period. Less food, less water, less food, less warmth, less light. It's not a welcoming period of time on Earth, where the first zodiacs actually, they thrive in the sunlight and everything, the warmth and the abundance of spring and everything. Where the other zodiacs, and we know that Capricorn and Aquarius, Saturn is their ruler, right? So there's something. Death is the tarot card for Scorpio, right? That it's this idea that something is lost, that something potentially can be lost, and there's this lesson to figure out how do I live after such a hit that feels like a planet killer, that it's destroying something like really profound. It's this idea that you are alone. There is no other choice. There is no God. You lose your faith here. You lose your faith here, and then you're continuing after that on your journey. The point is that you're continuing towards this again. And you're the last sign, Pisces, right? We know that, right? Somehow we know this. If people live humans live in the understanding of that they are human, so they will die at some point. They have a birth and then they have a death. And when they lay on their deathbed, after a long life, so their life is now, you could say, like moving towards the end of what we call a natural death. Eventually they become more passive, they lay more, they don't move as much, they're not as active as they were once. They may need treatment, they sleep more, they get into a yin state. Some of them, like, they sit and nap, right? They sit in the chair and they're napping, and then, they wake up again. In those naps, I believe that they're connecting again. They're reconnecting back with where they come from. And this awareness becomes more and more. Some people, when they reach their 80s, become more religious. There's a reason for that, right? It's like a reconnection back to source, you could say, the oneness feeling. So this can be an inner feeling that some structures that you have been living by all your life is breaking down, that you have a new awareness, or you're choosing one. Like as I said, the split is here. You can choose to go by the old version, the third dimension. Do you want to stay there? Or you can choose the other one. You can choose to go on the other one, but here you will be the novice, right? Because this is unknown territory for us. Most of us don't remember. We may have like a hearsay, like in the back of our mind here. We may have this like, there was this story once about Atlantis, or there was this story about Jesus, right? But has not been currently in our life. It has not been available in our life for many generations. So we're not familiar with it. The tower here, the fall of the tower, this system here, we are familiar with. We know what that is. We know the duality. We know everything about judging, like, and scanning and figuring out what is good and bad for us. We know everything about that. And you especially, Pisces, right? I've mentioned before, Pisces, you are the water sign that has no shield. Cancers and Scorpios have shields. But you have no shield, you have no toxic tail, you have no claws. You depend entirely on your intuition, on your scanning abilities. If you scan wrong, it is your death, right? So you are like, instead of getting yourself involved with something where you are doubting just a little bit, you probably say, never mind. I just move out there. It's not worth it for me. I choose my comfort, right? I choose to figure out where I can be more comfortable. I choose to let, you could say, the God light in me guide me to the waters where I'm more safe, where the food is good, and so on, right? That I listen to, that's the story that I want to follow. That's the newspaper I want to read. That's the guidance I want to take. Because otherwise I could literally head on go right into trouble. And of course you can do that. I just don't think that it's for you, Pisces, right? You have a bigger awareness. You are the last zodiac sign of all. You have done it all. You have tried everything. Once you have been an Aries. You have incarnated once as an Aries. You have been the Virgo also who got the hit. You have tried everything. And you stand now as a Pisces like, I let my antenna out, right? I let my antennas guide me here. That is also what I feel this describes. It's like there is something here in us that wants to grow these antennas more and receive the messages, what is right for us, how to build a different earth here, a different earth with a different blueprint here. This can be also the feeling that you have inside, right? That you have grown the atlas and you can actually hear the guidance here. That you follow the star, your soul. This is the soul chakra, soul star chakra. It means that you have a bigger awareness about your soul, right? You have a bigger awareness about, you are not just going about being a human here on earth and only thinking that you have human, that this is the only choice. This is the blend, I feel like, of a human with soul. Like this is the start of it. This is a human boy with big antennas and wings. Like he is the, you could say, the perfect picture of a light body, or a child, or a new energy here on earth that is both, that is both, right? That has an awareness about the fall here, the duality, but also lives by their soul understanding. That the soul is guiding them, right? And they can leave, like if they don't like it, they can leave. If it's not comfortable, they can leave, right? They can go to a different area of earth to figure out if that's more appropriate, if that's nicer. And that is the new blueprint. I feel like this can even describe the new children that come in from now on. That the children that are born now, they will have a different awareness about this. They will know that, like if something is very uncomfortable for me, I'm leaving it behind. Like I'm walking away from it, right? And I don't know, I had the feeling like he's here. Like he's like, maybe there's a child born that has Jesus-like quality. I don't know, but I don't know where. I just had the feeling he's here. Like he's here. Like he has arrived, or he's being birthed, or he's here now. Like this awareness of this one. The one who can balance, who after the hit here, still knows how to go about life in the most balanced, or you could say oneness-like way. That's why I maybe want to use the word allness. Like, even with everything there is, I stand in the middle, right? I stand in the middle, and in the middle here, and choose not to judge. I'm aware of the third dimension around me, perhaps, right? Again, there's a split. Some will live, some will continue to live in the third dimension. And they will never change their mind. They will never open their eyes to anything else. They will live in fear, and they will live in suffering, and they will stay there. And it can be your family and friends, even your children. And we can't really do anything about it. The offer of the fifth dimension is made to everyone. Whether they can hear it, like whether they choose that to be their new, like, overriding story, headline, whether they discard it, whether they feel like I'm too old to make any changes, I can't be this novice here. They will live the life continuing with the same kind of stories, the same kind of understanding, the same kind of doom, the same kind of pain. They will do that, and some will not. Some will embark on letting the tower fall here of the third dimension and become the novice here, one of the new ones here. That's what I feel like is here. The last card on the table for you, Pisces, is the Moon card. And somehow I feel like it really relates to the full moon that is present also here alongside your reading here. I haven't done the full moon reading yet in the sign of Pisces, happening tomorrow. I haven't done it yet, but I will do it, and we'll see if there is similar information here coming up. So this Moon card can take you, like, I want to say into fear, or it can take you into appreciation. I've talked a bit about this idea that the moon is a fragment of a planet called Freya, that scientists believe Earth has collided with at some point in history, way back, when humans were not even a thing on the planet Earth at that point. So Freya was created out of the Big Bang theory, if that is real, as well as Earth and the other planet in our solar system. They were orbiting at the same rate, or at the same distance to Sun, and eventually their gravity pulled them together, and they collided in a massive hit. So from that point on, Earth was now, you could say, merged with another planet, and it still is today. And it is said that the moon we see as our moon is a fragment of that Freya planet. The Freya planet is less dense than Earth is. You can look it up if you want to. But at least scientists have made that calculation that Earth has a stronger density than the moon does. Meaning that you could say that when a collision happens, well, there could be different theories, but I'm theorizing about the fact that if one planet was less dense, it could be more fragile, perhaps, when it hits something that is more dense and equally sized. But they merged, and of course several pieces were split in such a collision. Because again, it could be the feeling like a planet killer, that something comes in that is so massive that it destroys the planet as it was, and then it became something new. And that is like this symbol for me, like this, that once Earth was something, that something collided, and then Earth is now different, right? It can still be good, it can still be an okay place, but there's a scar, right? It's like you can't not know this. Like when before it happens, you don't know it. Then it happens, now you do know it, and you can't erase it from our brain. I don't know, even to the fact that, let's say, there were creatures on Earth who then eventually evolved into human beings. Those creatures may, even if they were just microbes, may have inherited some of this knowledge. And that knowledge is in us today, present in our amygdala center in the brain and reptile brain. You know, like maybe the reptile part of our brain and the amygdala was created due to this event. So that from that part on, we had to be aware of dangers, right? But they were not present before. And Scorpio, they are still doing the heart massage of the before existence. So the before existence is like an ideal version for the Scorpio. And they cannot accept that it's gone. It would be the feeling that it would be like the Jesus energy, original Jesus energy. You know, like that just stands there in light and love and beauty and wants to help and is not judging you, is fully accepting of what is. That kind of energy is unconditional, right? And it's like if that hit comes, and we may know it in our simple life as a heartbreak or someone we loved very dearly dies. So we grieve, right? There is a life before this happens, and then there's a life after. That's what it indicates. But it's something massive, like it's a big hit to your life. It's a big change, a big trauma, or a big loss or grief or something. It's very big. And this awareness, Virgo, those who have Virgo in that chart, they live with this very strongly every day. For a Virgo who has not had the hit yet, they have the awareness that it could come. Maybe it's coming when they are 70, but they have lived with the awareness all their life. It's a personal theory of mine. I can see it play out, like in many people I know, how this has been a thing in our lives, whether we want it or not. Again, we only have access consciously to like 5-10% of our brain. What about the rest? What's in there? I believe that we carry all kinds of memories. I believe every film, every fairy tale, every story, every crime novel, every Armageddon film is not just like creative fantasy of someone. It's a memory that is activated, and then people write a story about it. It's like you're just sharing a part of life. Like when a child comes home from school and you ask them, oh, what happened at school today? And they tell you about something in the classroom, or they tell you something about a play outside in the playground. It's the same thing. So they just repeat what they have witnessed and experienced. It's the same thing. Like you're just getting a memory out of your subconscious brain, and you write a story about it. It's like writing a letter to a friend about some kind of incident. That's how I see it. That we are just recalling, repeating it, and then sometimes a film is made or a novel is published or something, but we are just repeating it. What we have witnessed. So the love stories, the love songs, the tragedy love songs about unrequited love, same thing. Like it's a memory of losing something, or not having it, or be separated from it, or... So the moon for me represents, you could say, a less dense version of us. If you are less dense, you hold less low vibrational energy. It means that you can allow more high vibrational energy in. So during this full moon, maybe some are crying because they have to release it. Like a release is needed. We have to become less dense like the moon. so that we actually can take in these energies. We can take the new energies in. We can allow them in. So if you have a purge, the moon could represent that, a purge of something. That you find yourself being very much in moon energy. It's a full moon, but it's also in Pisces, which is Cancer and Pisces for me. It represents the moon here. The moon density is Cancerian and Piscean. And what do we know about these signs? We know they are sensitive, intuitive. We know they are, usually kind, helping, empaths. That's what this represents. Like, become less dense. When you become less dense, you may feel more sensitive. You may feel that you are impacted by the world more. But it's part of the new imprint here that comes in. Right? Because if we all somehow get more sensitive, eventually none of us, none whatsoever, can stand the noise. We can't stand the lies. We can't stand we would walk away from them. Our intuition will tell us if someone is lying to us. We will walk away because there's no comfort. This is a way of raising the vibration, right? That we start saying no to it. We start walking away and saying no to that kind of behavior. It's third dimensional. It's manipulative or whatever. And that is a way of raising the vibration, that if more and more and more of us become aware and see through the illusions, we see how this plays out. We feel the suffering. That's one of the sensitive parts as well, that we feel the suffering. We can see it, we can smell it, our senses tell us, right? But we walk away from it. Like, if people choose the third dimension, it's their choice. It's their experience here on earth. Those who choose the fifth dimension are ready for it, I want to say. They probably are ready. They have been here enough. Like, they have learned enough about the human condition to now choose the other direction. With this said, I'm kind of just thinking that, like the oneness idea of source, that in that existence as a soul, there is no discomfort whatsoever. It's a perfect balance of everything. It makes me wonder, okay, so people come here on earth, or souls incarnate as humans here on earth, to have the experience of separation from oneness. So feeling discomfort in all kinds of various ways. That's one thing you can learn as a soul, for soul growth. But what if there are others? What if there are other universes or other planets you can go to have an experience as a soul, but it's not about discomfort and imbalance. It's about something else. It just makes me wonder if there are, like educational soul steps. Like, you can have, so you learn about discomfort here on earth and finding your way. Choose, like the choices you make indicate when you are kind of ready to go back to source. So now you have, you have finished second grade. So now you're ready for third grade, right? And it's somewhere else, and it has to do with something else, which I don't know exactly what is, but I just get this idea. I get this feeling that coming here will create discomfort and the separation of the oneness. The feeling that we are not always comfortable, and some are actually not at all comfortable. They are in the feeling of constant threat and panic. You know, like people who live in post-traumatic stress, like there is no real peace in there. And all they want is getting it back. Like they want it back, but it seems like they're disconnected from it. Like they're reliving the horror again and again and again and again and again and again. That's the post-traumatic stress disorder, right? And what it seems like is that if someone lives in post-traumatic stress, it's because they got the hit, the overwhelm. Something was way too much. And they had this massive hit and it threw you to the ground. Physically, mentally, socially, psychologically. And now you are living with the aftermath of something. And can you return to oneness? Can you return to the middle here again? That's what I feel like is one of the life lessons for all of us here in some or the other way. Can we escape our ego existence? The ego is created as a protector. So the ego voice, the tape recorder of the ego voice, is a tape recorder that reminds of danger, reminds of what not to do. It wants to protect us from evil, right? But as long as it keeps spinning, you're in the third dimension. At some point, we have to say stop to it. If you want to pursue the fifth dimension, you have to say stop to it. You have to question it. Is it even true? Is the story true? Is it still true? Maybe it felt like it was really vital when you were a child to create the story, but is it still true? Are you still in a very threatening position? Have you gotten yourself out? So someone who has experienced absolute overwhelm from war, so a war veteran coming home with post-traumatic stress, they are not there anymore, but they still relive it, like they're in it. The tape recorder is on somehow. The only way it can be switched off is if you decide that you want to switch it off and you start focusing on something else. When you're focusing on the fear and the threat and you're constantly alert, right? You have to start focusing on something else, even if this keeps wanting to take over and draw you back. It's like you try to enter the fifth dimension, which is more comfortable, but then it draws you back. Your mind draws you back because most of your mind is focusing on the loss. But if you start, it's just putting in a seed. Just plant a seed that says, this is not all there is. There's more. Or I can choose something else. It's like a part of your brain has been hijacked due to the overwhelm. And from that point, it seems like it's always on alert. But we can tell it not to be. We can show it that there is something else. If you take a walk in nature and you sit down in the field and there is literally nothing around you that is a threat. The sun is shining, there are flowers there, butterflies are flying around you, it's quiet. There is nothing there that can shoot you, hit you, wound you. There's nothing there. Nature is your best friend in this regard because it's also not loud. It is not speaking against you. It's not accusing you of anything. You are. If you feel accused, you are. or someone who can make a sound. Like I have the chili as the front picture, right? With the spitting mouth here. We have to find places where there are no spitting mouth then. Because if you are in places like that, you cannot not see it. Even though you have this spinning recorder here of all that could go wrong and what is wrong, and you have to always be on guard and you have to look over your shoulder. If you find a spot like that in a field, the sun is shining, it is quiet, only a few birds in the air, butterflies, the flowers. You see a little hare jump by. There is nothing there that potentially can hurt you and will hurt you. That's the other part. It doesn't want to. It's peaceful. It's this one, right? It's peaceful. That even we may believe that the only way we can find relief is if a person understands us. I believe that people are not necessarily the best, you could say, therapists or healers. Nature is a great healer because it's never judging you. It accepts you exactly how you are, with all your woundings or with all your fears or grief. It accepts you exactly how you are. It's never telling you that what you are going through is wrong. It accepts you exactly as you are. It's not judging you. You can sit and cry there if you want to. It's still not judging you. You can tell it everything. You can speak to it if you want to. It's still not judging you. It's just listening. And you can smell those flowers. And you can if you just try, it's just a seed. You put a little seed in your brain, and then you allow that seed to grow. So maybe you can sit in the field 5 minutes one day. And it's only 1 minute where you actually maybe feel, okay, this could maybe be okay for me to be here. And then it feels almost uncomfortable. That this idea of nice feels wrong for someone with post-traumatic stress. The idea of nice and quiet and calm is what you want, but when it's there, it almost feels wrong. Because your ego wants to draw you back into the machine here. So you have to adapt yourself to it. You have to allow it to be there. And the more you do this, maybe in a week you sit there for 10 minutes then. And maybe you have 2 minutes of feeling okay with it. Like maybe not quite peachy, right? But you feel okay with it. And then the tape recorder draws you back and you stand up and walk away. After a year, you can sit there maybe a few hours and you will have maybe 20 minutes where you can actually meditate, or you can lay down and close your eyes and just relax. And then it becomes uncomfortable, and then you get up again and then you get moving. I'm just telling you that if you plant a seed, you can change the story. And what I feel like is happening at this time with the full moon here, it's like something is wanting to break down. It's like an invitation. It wants to break down something. and it is wanting to invite you into something new. So whether you take that invitation or not depends on you. It depends on also whether you are prepared to go in moon energy here. Moon energy is not necessarily a fun vibe. Like it can be a vibe where you're sad. As I said, it could be a purging, like you need to purge something. Like let something go, release yourself from some kind of heavy feelings or sadness or grief or something. It could be the feeling of a dark night of the soul, that or death even. Pisces is related to the elderly life that transitions at some point. So the release of something. But also maybe a gratitude, right? Because the moon actually wants to make you less dense. The moon can help you to release something. It's actually inviting you to release and purge. So maybe you know, or you feel like people have been, like a bit moody, or, feeling uncomfortable. And it will be. It will be, because if we want to release ourselves from the third dimension, we have to release fears. Like the things that keep us from accepting ourselves, perhaps, or the life around us. That we can't control the life around us, but we can do something about our own life. So the things that are prohibiting us, we probably should detox from that. Right? It would make us less dense, and it would be easier for us to think more clearly and actually make the choices that we need to make. Like, again, can you see clearly to decide what kind of choice you want to make? Do you want to accept the new blueprint? Do you want to awaken your inner Jesus here, or your inner light here? This is the faith, right? The faith that you are a soul being. You belong to the stars here. That you are, it could even be the feeling of belonging to a star group, being a star being or something like that. But again, this acceptance of being a star being also takes you out of Earth, right? It's like there is an awareness of something else, not only the earthly matters. We live here, we have incarnated here. We are, some in spiritual circles talk about that this is just a simulation, that it's just a training, it's a game. Like you just have to figure out how to navigate it. I'm not the judge of that. I'm here with my message, right? That it seems like something wants to break down. When something breaks down, especially ego death, again, is a protector. It wants to protect you, but it also prevents you from trusting something else. Like if you have a main story and this is the one you stick to, you're not just changing it. If someone comes in and gives you another story. The things I say here, you may already have rejected it and clicked off the channel, right? If you don't feel it resonates, or if you can't allow for that to exist in your brain here, you will click off the channel. And that's quite all right. It's like if something is breaking down, if your ego is breaking down here and you are beginning to see something in a different light, I want to say, or with different understanding, it could be the feeling that I allow myself not only to be human, right? I allow myself also to be soul, or I allow myself to be most soul and less human. If that's the case, you're letting more soul in, right? You're letting more of the soul star chakra information in here. And it all goes through the heart. It's always the heart, right? It all goes through the heart. That's why when you have a broken heart, it's even more difficult to let this in and let the guard down. But that's what you're doing. Like when you allow soul to be more present in you, you are allowing for the guidance to come in. You're allowing your body to take up more light because you're deciding you trust. Like you decide you become the novice here. So I trust in the new age. I trust in me being able to open this more in me. And when you open this more in you, like you will be a creature or an individual that now walks the earth and have a different experience. You will have a different experience being here. But it may need we may need to purge here. Like we may need to face the moon. Like we may need to understand that what is happening is that you become less dense. And how you do that is by purging, letting go through emotional, like protective mechanisms. That you have to like go through those mechanisms. Are they really necessary? Why is it that I'm not trusting? Why is it that I feel fear in this regard? Is it like an old thing that happened once, but it's actually not present in my life? Do I even need to hold on to it anymore? That's what I feel like. The moon is here. It says it's an opportunity to improve your plans. I want to say your growth. Listen to your intuition for accurate guidance and face your fears and grow stronger. Yeah, you will grow stronger, wiser. Your soul has grown. It has faced something. There was a soul life before this, and then there's a soul life after. So you are now dealing, like, you have the awareness of this. And even though you have this awareness, you're choosing still to open your heart. You're choosing still to let light in. You're choosing still to love again, perhaps. That's what I feel like. This could talk about eco structures, walls around your heart that is breaking down. That's what the tower talks about. Not that they're standing, but that they are breaking down. And when they are breaking down, it's because even though you have the awareness of the hit and the separation feeling, the duality feeling, and good and bad feeling, you're choosing still to trust. You become then the novice here, right? You become the one that has your antennas out and you trust your intuition. And those fears, the things that come in that you may not like, that gives you discomfort, that takes you away of the balance here, it's just something that guides you from now on. It guides you because you're listening to something else here. You let this guide you, and you are walking the earth differently now. You're walking the earth differently. You are less dense. You will be able to do this. Like you will be able to, listen to your intuition for like accurate guidance. You will be able to, there will be things in front of you and you will be able to see through it. And you just simply just allowing it just to pass you if it's not for you, right? You just want to like not engage necessarily. Or you are allowing it to be there for those who still choose to live in the third dimension. The good and bad are equally important. It's the balance that hold everything together. That's how they live their life. That's the understand. That's the newspaper they're reading, right? They're reading the newspaper of good and bad. But you can decide to read another one. Even though you know this is still existing, that's what I feel like here. It's like someone exists even though this other, like the duality is still here. It's still present. You're just not engaging with it, right? It's like you have the choice. The invitation is here not to engage with it. If you want something else to come in on earth, if you are the one who is helping to bring new earth here. You know, like it would be that, like when Jesus arrived on earth and grew up, of course he would be faced with duality. Some people would like him, some would not like him. Some people, he figured that out, right? Some people would fear him even though he was actually just nice and helpful and kind. And it's almost like when we live in duality, we don't really trust good. Like there must be a second agenda, or there must be something off. If you get an offer, a nice offer, like I'm offering you something, it's almost like, nah, there must be something wrong with that. I must read the contract, everything in the contract, right? Otherwise, I could be fooled, I could be manipulated. You know, it's almost like if someone is literally handing you something, I want to offer you this, and no strings attached. It's like, can that really be, we are asking ourselves, because it seems too good to be true. That's how we see nice. Either we are exploiting nice, or we are second guessing it, not trusting it, right? That's what it is, and that's what I feel like we need to get it back, right? We need to get back to a place where nice is nice and trustworthy and healing and good and kind without the second guessing. That's what I feel. This is the earth that we need to create, right? That we shouldn't sit with all these extra thoughts of manipulation, like, is there a possible manipulation here? Are they lying to me? What have I missed? It's too good to be true. I can't take this for face value. I don't trust it. You know, we need the trust back if we want the vibration to come up again. So we need to trust even though duality is still here. There is an invitation with the full moon here in Pisces to choose to trust, even though you know that duality is here. You have the awareness of the hit, right? That even though you had that, maybe you've gone through it yourself, like maybe you did have a massive hit and you had to like kind of figure out how to rise again. You can now live in discomfort and fear and agony and pain and suffering because maybe it's coming back, right? Or you can choose to say, my fear, my pain, my suffering, and the mistrust is actually hurting me more than me possibly trusting. Even though the trust in the first place was maybe what got you into trouble, right? That you were too trusting. The guidance you have now is that you have opened to your soul guidance here. That you have this one with you, right? You have this one with you. And it means that you are no longer alone on your journey. You can choose to tap into your other awareness. And if you are just not feeling it, like if it doesn't feel right for you, you can simply say, okay, I'm not sure that I'm going to do this. Or there is this possibility, this door has opened in front of me and I can go there, choosing to trust, and then we see what happens. But most of us don't. Like we sit in like, nah, we choose to trust the protector. We choose to trust the mistrust or the distrust of something. We choose to sit in doubt instead of faith. And I feel like there is an invitation here to maybe have a look at that. Have a look at your doubt and fears or mistrust, right? Have a look at it. Because, of course, yeah, if you had a massive hit, yeah, and you live in dualistic understanding, you believe you are only human and you can die. I understand the ego protector very well. I understand why it came into being, why it's there, when it activates. I get it. I have lived with this. I still live with it to a certain point, but I just get the feeling of something else has arrived, that it's here, and it is an invitation. Do you trust to go there? Like you have to say it, like you have to say it to yourself. Choose it, but not if you're ready. If you're ready, you can say yes to it. That's what I feel like. But there could be something you need to go through first. The full moon kind of wants to wrap up a cycle, so there could be, like a bit of leftovers here that maybe you still need to look at before you are maybe like ready to say, I don't see the point of suffering anymore. But that's actually it. You have to get to a point where the aftermath and the suffering and the pain and the grief and everything, it's like you have to get to a point where you say, I don't see the point of the suffering anymore. It's like when I sit in the suffering or when I sit in this feeling of grief or something, it's not working for me anymore. For a person who has been in grief for a long time, maybe they lost a loved one. It's almost like you have to get to a point where there are no tears left. Where you realize, when I sit here, as long as I sit here, nothing else can happen. Nothing can come in as long as I keep this alive. As long as I stay here, nothing new is happening. You have cried, you have suffered, you are lonely, you feel sad, you you're longing, you're in despair, and that may be right for a time, but you have to come to a point where, and I can't tell you when that happens, but you can get to a point where it's like you're looking almost back, like you stand here now, you're looking back at you sitting here and suffering, like you sit and almost witness yourself crying and going through all the pain of the loss. And it's like you get to this point where you kind of, the tears don't do it for me anymore. The feelings of despair, they don't bring what it is that I truly want. They don't bring it back. And maybe it can come back. As I said, the things that happened before the hit, it's not the same after. It will be different. Here you are living with, I would say, maybe an acceptance here, or an apology, or forgiving yourself or forgiving someone else. You are still aware of this. Like you're still aware of the good and bad. You're still aware of the hit and what it created. But you know, like here you sit in maybe an acceptance. Maybe you have forgiven yourself or forgiven others. Maybe you have released enough, cried enough, or purged enough here. And when you can sit here and you can watch this, like you know that it's potent. This world is potent, right? You've been there, you know it. But it's like coming to this point where blaming others or blaming myself, or like having this duality thing going on. Or again, you know that someone was a predator and they did something to me. So I was the prey, I was the victim, right? That you see yourself as a victim, as something terrible did something to you. When you're in that mode, you can't really see things in a different way. But I'm telling you, you can get to a point where you can. You can get to a point where the suffering, the victimhood, no longer applies. It no longer has that function for you anymore. It's not working. And this is where you can become the victor of your own suffering. You can let it die. You can let it go. You can release it. You can purge it. You can say goodbye to it. It had its time. And it was maybe necessary. I'm not saying it wasn't. It probably was. Because it's a chaotic feeling when it hits. When it hits, it's chaos. It's death and rebirth and transformation all in one. And you can get to a point, you can stay in the suffering, the third dimension. I say that. You can choose by yourself. But you can come to a point where the tears no longer do it for you. The suffering, the longing no longer does it for you. You are grieving something that was. It will not be again. It will be different. It will be rebirthed with the awareness of this. It's still there, around you. People may tell you every day how terrible the war is, or, but you can come to a point where you're kind of seeing through it, like you can distance yourself from it, or as I've talked about in some of the other readings, like the matrix of something is here. And you're watching it, like you've taken a step out, and you're now watching. That is what this one does. It has chosen to take a step out of the matrix. This is the matrix. They have been in the matrix. They're now taking a step out and they're watching it. Right? They're watching what's going on there. and they're taking this step out, and they're kind of just, if I'm not supposed to be part of this, what can I then be part of then? And this is where you are now part of you have no impact on this. Right? That's the whole problem. That's what's created the problem, is that we realize that there's no comfort here for me. In here, I'm in discomfort, and I can't control it. So I'm taking myself out of, I'm looking at it, and I'm taking myself out of it. I see the rules, what rules it and what governs it. Like the separation consciousness, the good and bad and everything. But then I choose to turn towards something else. And what is that then? I remember the time before, so it should be similar to that. But I can't I can't forget about this. It's still in my awareness. I haven't forgotten it, but I want to create something out of it, you could say. Out of it, or despite it. Out of it or despite it, I'm still creating now something that is more comfortable for me. And this now governs your choices. It governs the new choices you make. This is where you become the page here. That from now on, you are allowing a new story to be available here, and you are deciding to govern or create, you could say, what is now here for me. Does it make sense? That's what I feel like. The split is here. There is an invitation with this full moon to let the matrix go, not play with it. Release yourself from whatever it has done to you, because there is massive discomfort here, and suffering and pain and loss and grief. Maybe there's still a little bit left that you need to look at, to purge. But then I feel like the invitation is here for you. Also, if you see this message and you haven't clicked off yet, the invitation is definitely here to become this novice, to choose a new way. Like you can become the creator of your own new Eden here. You just have to choose it, right? If you are one with post-traumatic stress, do you go and sit in the field and let that healing come in? Or are you avoiding it? Like allowing your protector to stand there and tell you, no, we have to preserve what is. And what do you get yourself involved in then? And is it really helping you? Right? That is what I'm asking you here. Is your ego helping you? The story, the tape recorder of the ego, is it helping you? Really? If you are in the midst of a grieving phase, I can't say that the time is right for you. Probably not. Maybe you need another round. You know, there will be a new full moon in Pisces next year, right? So it's never done. That's another thing with the moon energy and the earth energy and all the planets. It's like there are these helpers they are helpers that constantly swirl around us. They are giving us new opportunities all the time. They're giving you like new information and new opportunities all the time. They never give up on us. That's maybe also an awareness you have here, that they never give up on you, right? They will give you a new opportunity again and again and again and again and again and again. For you to purge, for you to heal, for you to hear the invitation, for you to restore your faith, for you to build yourself up again. So take it how it resonates. If you are in the midst of a grieving phase and you feel like you can't just jump into that awareness, what I'm talking about here, maybe you're not ready. Maybe you need another round of something. Then next year, next year, right? You look at it next year then. I'm not sure that 1 year back, I'm not sure that I could sit and talk like this. Like my awareness was probably not quite ready yet to talk like this, you know? And I'm still going through some of this also because, well, the third dimension is still very much available here, right? And we can be drawn and sucked into it every time something feels threatened. We can let ourselves be sucked back into it, right? It's like a constant thing unless you kind of negate from it. It could also mean maybe you need to stop listening to the news. Maybe you need to like disengage from certain friends or family. That could be also what the moon energy talks about. That we have to go through a phase of release here. And the moon can take us through all kinds of thinking. That we are the worst friend, the worst daughter, the worst, that I can't do this, having bad conscience, feeling you are obliged to or you should or ought to do something. I can't just choose this. What would those and those say? How would they judge me? You know, that is what the moon also talks about, that we will have these things come up that we kind of have to go through in our mind. And some will be sucked back because they're not ready to deal with that. Some are still in grief. Some are still attached somehow, codependent, or they can't make the split. They can't choose it yet. This is what I feel like is here for you, Pisces. This is the reading that I have. It's challenging also. You're chilly with the spitting mouth here, fiery spitting mouth, right? It's challenging you to decide what identity you have. Who are you? Identity sits in the throat chakra. This is who you are, what you identify with. What truth are you speaking? What truth do you allow your mind to like align itself with? So maybe you are aligning more with the fact that you are more soul than you are human. Which is a change, because it now activates something else in your body. This is where I feel like some of the light code, if you are more soul than you're human, you're stepping out of that matrix. If you are more soul, you identify with being more immortal or infinite, you could say. You're no longer only mortal. You see the difference of living a life where you are solely mortal and where the fear factor is definitely present, you know, in all ways of life. If you believe that you are more than that, if you're more than that, you're allowing for changes in your body to take place that cannot be done if you are in here. And that is a new blueprint. It's like you're becoming a 2.0, where you are You are allowing for things to be there which cannot be in here. It's not there. That you have in here, you have no choice. There is only one way of existing. You are allowing for a different way of existing. And it opens another door for you. Does that make sense? I hope it does. This is what I feel like. Is here with the reading, but actually I feel it like in the air. It's like there's something here that is available for us. And as I said, again, I had this like the feeling of he is here. Like he. We could talk about Jesus or God or faith or star being, star connection, something. The connection is restored. Whatever I say he, but like for me it is a he. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's a she. Doesn't matter. The point is that it's here. It's available. It's here. It has been dug up. It has arrived. It is connectable. It's connectable. You can connect with it if you want to, choose to, trust. Otherwise, you stay in this. Does it make... You're Pisces. You know more about this than me probably, right? I'm Cancer, but... and I do not have strong Piscean placements. I do have a strong Hecate there, but she is not a normal planet in astrology, right? But do you get my point? Like you probably do, Pisces. You may have felt this come in a long time ago. I said to Scorpio a long time ago that a storm is coming. And actually it felt like it was something bad. But what I feel like now it is that is coming is high frequency energy. It's love energy. But it feels like a storm because we are not used to it. We are fearing it. We are fearing that our heart will get broken again. We don't trust. So it feels like a storm, but actually it's a rise in vibration. It's love. It's the return of him. He is here, available again, connectable, contactable. It's coming in, or it's coming up to the surface. Maybe Scorpio can stop doing the heart massage because it actually is connectable. It is here. It is available. But you still have to trust it. You still have to trust that you are then one of the novices. Maybe you're one of the only ones who believe in this. Maybe there's nobody in your friend group or family group who can follow. Maybe you're the only one. Please let me know in the comment if you feel safe and secure enough to let me know. If you think I'm on the right track here, if you think that what I do is actually something you like, please share this with someone if you feel like it makes sense. And otherwise, I'm grateful for every one of you out there because you have probably felt this coming in for a very long time. And you're happy probably, right? You're probably happy because it's what we have been feeling that it was lacking here on Earth, right? And so I can be joyous with you. Pisces, take care of yourself out there. I send you my very best, always love and light. Bye-bye.